is a little bit after 8. This is the Emergency Preparedness Committee meeting, February 5th, 2026. We have a quorum. Let's bring the meeting to order. I'll do a roll call. Hang on 1 second. Kim, are you here? Lynn? I'm here. Dale? Here. Miriam is out. Chris is out. Ray is out. Jerry, are you here? Vic, you here? Randy?
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Are there any oral communications that are not on the agenda? In the audience, I don't see any hands up. So I don't think that there are any. Are there any from the committee?
I'm volunteering to be the liaison to the EPC meetings in Woodside. Just so you know that.
Okay, very good. You're going to capture that in your minutes, right? Okay. The next item is approval of minutes from the last meeting. I've reviewed them. I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes. I have a second. All in favor? The meeting minutes are passed. Let's see. Okay, then probably the biggest item. I left a lot of time for this. I don't know that we will necessarily need it, but this is the priorities for 2026. So if you recall, made a first pass at it some time ago, a couple of weeks ago, and wasn't really exactly what we wanted. We formed a subcommittee of Dale, Ray, Chris, and I, and had a couple of meetings, have reformatted and recast essentially those slides. I also talked with the town manager and our town council liaison, and they are good with the latest version. There was a small correction that I made, and now it's version 9A, so it's clean. But I wanted to open it up. I think we're ready to go with it, but I wanted to see if there were any committee members who had comments, concerns or anything else. If not, well, I mean, we could move on fairly quickly. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Go ahead, Dale.
I move that we accept this and move forward with presenting to town council.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
That looks unanimous. I see Randy, do you have a comment?
I just abstain. I'm reviewing now. Sorry.
Okay. I think we're good to go. If you see something that's completely outrageous, let me know and we'll work on it. But I think we're ready to go. So that presentation is February 11th, 7 p.m. to Town Council. I believe Vice Chair Kim is going to join, and she'll probably present one of the slides on EOP, EOC. So doing a tremendous amount of work there. So, geez, with that being done, WPF cert and ready, you guys are on if you're ready to go.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Since I haven't been in attendance for the last couple of months, the specifics of some of our cert events, Lynn probably would be better to mention what she's been doing for our first Saturday trainings. So she's been basically what it's been at is medical operations. So in the field all the way to the medical station when our certs are deployed. So if you want to touch base later, or if you want to mention some of what you've been doing, you can do that, later, now, or whatever. The thing I do want to mention is I just want to make a quick ask. With the recent earthquakes that we've been having in the Bay Area, it is definitely a reminder that preparedness obviously isn't theoretical, right? It's now. So we have an upcoming CERT basic skills training, and we need more people signed up. We are at 7 right now. We need 10 to hold a class, and we need them by today. So if you haven't taken CERT yet, please join. If it's been a while, and you're welcome to retake it as a refresher. And yeah, because let's be honest, most of us could use a skills update that's not on Zoom at this point. And if you've already taken CERT, I really need your help recruiting. So please personally invite your friends, your neighbors, your HOA contacts. A direct ask from someone they trust really goes like a long way, right? It's hard to say no to someone when you're talking to them directly. Also too, with that class, we've built in a lot of flexibility. So if you're going to miss a session or two, you're able to make up 3 sessions online or with a neighboring agency. So please sign up, push the class to people. We want to get those people signed up because the class starts next Tuesday. So it's Tuesday nights from 6:30 to 9:30 at Station 19 in Woodside, up on the top of the hill in Emerald Hills. And then I'm going to leave it at that. I'm sure other members will have stuff to input for what's been really happening. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. An update from the Bureau of Fire Prevention and Life Safety, which is prevention, fire prevention, and fuel mitigation and emergency preparedness, which Selena just gave a little overview on. And I'll touch more on that too, because with her being gone, there's been some other work. First, I wanted to bring up to you one big thing. We started last year doing them, but I don't think it got out to the public as much as we wanted to. So we're really putting a push. We have a newsletter that we put out every month with tips, updates, important information that we want residents to know. We have now titled it called The Ready Resident, and that's a newsletter that we publish on our website, but also we put it onto the town's monthly, their newsletter that goes out. They put in a little summary of our newsletter to redirect residents to go to our newsletter. But I gave you a copy of that just so you could see. It has a letter from me that kind of talks about a recap of everything that happened in 2025 and then what we're forecasting for 2026. Also, with our last month, I wanted to happily present that, and I gave you a screenshot of that, is our new community map. That's one of the biggest, I guess, results of a lot of work we put in last year. It came from a lot of asks from a lot of residents. The community map has many layers in it, and it's an evolving piece of technology that we are going to be adding in the Firewise layers so that everybody knows when they put in their address, it takes you, so when you go into this community map, when you put in your address, it takes you to where you are in the district. It gives you information like your legal address, who the fire station who responds to your area, the fire inspector that covers your area, and what we're going to be adding is the Firewise layer so that if you are in a Firewise, it'll tell you that you are, but we're looking at ways, and I'm talking to Firewise leaders on the best way to connect residents to their Firewise leader for the area they're in so that they can be a part of that Firewise community. It also gives you information about the EPIC organization, as well as a link to WPV Ready and WPV CERT. We want to get that information out as much as we can because both organizations do so much work. It's good, valuable work that we want more residents to be aware and participate and volunteer their time. So it's just a great map. You can also schedule your home assessments. That's something new. You can now go online, schedule all your home assessments, regardless what zone you're in. We are still concentrating all our sources to zones 1 through 4 in Woodside. We have completed around 1,300 parcels to date. Over there, we still have another 700-ish to go, but we're making progress. Still, the challenge, as I've expressed before, was people not being home. So we're hoping with creating this online tool to schedule your assessment, it'll help with facilitating getting those home assessments done. But we are open to doing assessments. We don't want to discourage anybody in the district who wants to get their assessment done. We're happy to still come out and do your assessments as well. We have 2 part-time defensible space inspectors that are doing these inspections. They started not too long ago, so one is fully trained now to go out on his own, so it's great. He's hitting the ground running now. And so he's going to be working on all these home assessments so that we can get into this part of the district. We also have a link because there's so much sales right now And it is on a realtor's onus to make sure they do follow this part of the law. But AB 38, which is the real estate fire safety disclosure program, it requires realtors at time of resale, if houses are in the very high, to comply with fire safe regulations and with the fire department on defensible space. However, in our ordinance we made this blanket we created a blanket for the entire district. So regardless if you're in the high, very high, or moderate, if you're selling your house, you need to comply with our defensible space requirements. And the effort behind that is to try and get new homeowners to start off on the right foot with how their house should look and how they need to maintain it. And it's in the effort of overall getting our community to that fire adapted community level that is the result we'd like to see throughout the district. So that's also available online. Those you have to pay for, but it is available to realtors. The other new thing we had is last year we did open up a software program for construction for permitting. So that's been on its way. We've had a lot of kinks to iron out on that, but now we're kind of to a place where it's working for all construction permits, remodels, any type of renovations, all go through a specific system to get their permits and get their inspections done. We also adopted, which I did let you know in the past, but there's been questions about it. So we are creating, when we adopted the new fire code ordinance last year, it did bring up some questions from residents. So Darcy and we are working on basically a resident user-friendly version of the ordinance for what residents, like what does this mean to residents? What do they need to know about it? So we're creating that to put on our websites and have that available to residents to understand the questions that they had surrounding the new ordinance. In fuel mitigation, I did provide a picture. I just wanted you all to be able to see, and Randy, I think you'll have to share with some of the others that have that one. The work that the fuel mitigation crew has done. They finished Apache Road and we're working in the Ramoso area and Upper Alpine area. The photo there is of Portola Road right across the street from the tennis courts. But they have been working on now a lot of areas in Portola Valley is now on maintenance. We are almost through the 10 years of we had forecasted it would take 10 years for the fuel mitigation crew to get through every street in Portola Valley. They started with the major arteries and they've worked on all the side streets and then maintaining the major arteries throughout that time of those years. We're 8 years in now and we're almost through touching at least every part of Portola Valley. So they've been making really good progress and going back to other areas they've done just for maintenance. Maintenance is a lot easier than the first go around, but that's just a picture just to show of the clearance work. We're trying to build our website for fuel mitigation specifically. We've had a lot of residents ask about areas and work that we're doing in, and we want to put that information up there so they could see where the work is happening, but also the results of the work. I think some residents still feel that the right-of-way work that is being done, they feel like it's a clear cut of everything. And we want to demonstrate that that's not what the program is. The program is really to protect those egress routes so that when people are getting out, we're so limited here. We want to make sure they're clear and there's nothing hazardous along the roads. And then removing all those, all the ladder fuel and all that along the road. So that's the purpose of that program. Yes.
Hey, Jerry, could you use your mic, please? Thank you.
Are there specific ordinances about what you can or can't plant along the street on your property, which actually isn't your property, it's town's property? Are there specific rules around that?
The ordinance only states that you can't plant hazardous or flammable vegetation, but we do have on our website acceptable, we call them, if you want, fire smart plants for landscaping. And that came out of the Conservation Committee. So the Conservation Committee created this wonderful list of information that we have published on the website so that residents, when they are doing landscaping or replanting, to give them some guidance on what they can use. Also, a lot of work was done at the Red Shed in Los Trancos area. Many community members, 12 actually, joined in with the fuel mitigation crew to do Scotch broom pulling and other mitigation work out there. It's great to have those joint efforts from community members. The crew has been working in a lot of areas throughout the Portola Valley with Scotch broom pulling because it was just a good time to do it with the soil being moist and not dried out. And last in the community risk reduction, just to touch a little bit more on what Selena was on, we have been working on modernizing our messaging through the EPIC program, which is the WPV Ready and the WPV CERT. And some of those ways have been the Ready Communicators class. So that's been a big infrastructure that we're still working on the actual procedure once everyone starts to get trained as a Ready communicator. But that's an important key to making our communication work when there's no more, if there's no cell towers, if residents can't call 911, they're going to be relying on these Ready communicators to communicate from their radio to the on-duty CERT officer that then can communicate to the fire district for response if they needed help, whether it was a tree that fell, they have a medical issue, whatever it is, especially during those severe storm days where people are losing signal. We want to make sure that they can still get help. So that's been throughout. We published it on our website when the communicator classes come up. I think from the summary we had, I want to say there was 5 or 8 communicators now that have taken the class perhaps. So we're trying to, yeah. Of communicators? Oh, great. So that increased from last one. That's great. Okay. So 25. So that's really great to see. And then the other work that's been done is CERT has done an incredible amount of work, which Lynn can talk to that. We are working on launching a new Instagram account that is specific for residents. We're going to be sending out a postcard with some QR codes, but it's really so that we can highlight the work that's being done in the district, whether it's right-of-way work, whether it's CERT work, WPV ready work. We just really want to be sending some quick video clips to let residents know all the work that is being done throughout the district, just to get the communication out more and important messaging to them. We also are working on with the Wildfire Preparedness Committee on launching a defensible space assessor program. This is going to be a resident-run program, but it's through the fire district to do more of the training. Basically, the defensible space assessors, it's a curriculum that was developed by CAL FIRE. Once they get trained, they're going to be going through their neighborhoods and doing assessments for homes. And that will kind of start the preliminary work and helping us get the home assessments done. Because we just don't have all the staff we would like to get them all done. But this would really help educate homeowners and kind of start getting them in the direction where by the time we come around, they're ready for their home assessments and they're already having plans of attack of how they should start going about clearing their defensible space. So that's a new program. Correct. And it'll be in partnership with the fire district. So we will be working on getting specific individuals who want to be trained. We already have a handful of them that are trained, some in Ladera, some in Westridge. So Westridge was both Westridge and Ladera, we are going to use as pilots to see how it goes with those assessors that are already trained. And they're going to be using our software. So they're using our Fireside program to start these initial assessments. And that way it's all uniform. We're collecting the data and the information. And that way we can provide good reports on where we are and where we stand. So that's something that's going to be coming. It's still in development for this year. And that's all I have. And I'll turn it over to the fire chief unless somebody has any other questions.
Kim, I have a real quick question.
Oh, yeah.
So the newsletter that you have, is that something that you would push to PV Forum, or are you doing that already?
Yes. So that is going to be something we're going to be pushing to PV Forum. So all the social media outlets, including PV Forum, I'm pushing it out to the Firewise community so that they can push them out to their people, and all the IO groups that are in the district is just some of the ways of getting these newsletter outs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Kim,
another
quick-
question, Kim? Kim?
Quick question.
Thank you.
The Instagram account, so are you talking about WPV Ready as a new one or the Woodside Fire?
No, it'll just be out of our Bureau of Fire Prevention Life Safety.
Okay.
Or it may be the one that's already existent. We might use that. So we're still looking at which, because we have a few platforms, we want to recreate the wheel, but we just want to update that on Instagram. We're going to start posting this information, but we want to get it out to residents. We want residents to follow more to get more of the messaging.
Yeah, and I think we can push that to the schools too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, well, good morning. It's good to be back. Happy New Year. I will keep it brief. So Woodside Fire has had several promotions since the beginning of the year. I have assumed the position of fire chief. With me is our new deputy fire chief that I wanted to bring along and introduce. So this is Deputy Fire Chief Vince Nanini. Vince is, he started at the beginning of the year, and he was, prior to that, one of our battalion chiefs, our suppression battalion chief. So welcome to Vince. We've also had Jonathan Francisco was one of our captains. He's been promoted to our EMS battalion chief position. And then we had 3 captains promotions: Chris White, Chris Wells, and Mark Akiyama are all positions of fire now. So with that being said, we held our promotional badge pinning just recently on January 28th. It was at Station 7. We had 18 people who were being recognized. It was a very big deal for us. So it was a great ceremony and everything went well. So Woodside Fire is currently in the process of hiring. We're looking to hire 3 people over the course of the year. Currently, it's open to lateral firefighters. We're looking to get people who have experience already and integrate them into our department. And with that, otherwise, it's been pretty slow across the state. A couple of fires since January 1st, approximately 21 acres burned, and that's it. So thank you very much. Look forward to the meetings this year.
All right, thank you. I have a question. It might be slightly indelicate. I keep hearing about potentially running a evacuation drill or something along those lines this fall. Haven't heard a whole lot about it. I don't want to put anybody on the spot about this, but if you can make a comment, that would be very welcomed. Thank you.
Yes, it's something that we've been talking about and wanting to do. Just haven't had the capacity to really get it done, but it is a goal. I don't want to put a timeline on it because it kind of depends on what we're faced with this year, because it does take a number of planning and support and assistance. But this would be the committee that I would be looking to for assistance if we're able to get that on the calendar for this year. But the idea was to do a town-wide evacuation, but only in a specific area. So it wouldn't be every single town evacuating. It's just for them to be aware that we're running a drill. It's going to be, maybe we would create a scenario of where it would happen, do the SMC alert, put it on all the different forums out there for people to know that how to use their Genesis Protect app. It's to give opportunity for people to know what resources to use and when to use them, and then have them actually have bodies move out of the town to a location that we designate as where we can reunite and debrief on the entire event. So that's kind of the idea. And the idea is to keep those moving, every year of doing, everybody gets an opportunity to participate. And that's kind of the idea behind the whole thing.
All right, looks like Vic, you have a question?
Yeah. So I believe you cannot start communicating about this too early.
No.
And I know it's very much in the planning stage for this coming year, or perhaps even later, but I definitely would encourage you to start in your newsletter or otherwise to at least announce the plans to do this, so that hopefully we'll get optimal community participation in this very important evacuation exercise.
Thank you.
So Kim, let's just keep the communication going about that. I know you reached out in this communication right now about having some involvement from EPC. So let's flesh that out as time goes on. Thank you. All right, with that, let me look at the agenda. All right, yeah, subcommittee reports. The first one that comes up is communications. Ray isn't here. Let me, along with Dale, make a couple of comments. We did present an update on AM 1680 to Town Council, and that went very well. As you know, there's some equipment that's being put into AM 1680 to make it much more functional and operational. And we've had a couple of discussions about, I think Ray has brought up a protocol that he has written and Dale has written, co-authored a protocol. So there's quite a bit of activity in 1680 that we're looking at. With that being said, we've had some discussions about potentially starting different subcommittees. I will introduce the ideas, but I would propose that we talk about what we want to do on those subcommittees. Here's the idea. So if you look at AM 1680, kind of breaks down into three areas. One is the equipment itself, the radio, the antenna and so forth, just like the hardware. Then the second part of it is operations, especially along the lines of being able to upload new messages and being able to create messages that are both pre-recorded and ones that would come up like, an emergency or an unforeseen event that would have to make like a new message for. And then the third area that we're looking at, that's been talked about, is, well, what kind of messaging should be done? What do those sound like? Who records them? What's the content? As I look at those three areas, I think the equipment is probably the most contained, the most defined. It's pretty well understood. The second one, we're kind of figuring out how are we going to record them, who's going to record, and that kind of goes along with the protocol. The protocol, by the way, is at the point of going to the town manager for review. So we're pretty far along on that. The messaging, I think, is probably the most amorphous. It's the thing that we haven't really got our arms around yet. What I'd like to summarize all this is I'd like the committee to think about the subcommittees that would be in those three areas. I think, again, the equipment is pretty well defined. The second, and messaging and operations are a little bit less defined. So I want to just introduce that and have people think about it for the next meeting. I'll put it on the agenda about how those subcommittees break out and who would volunteer for those. Unless people are willing to step up right now and volunteer for those three areas. I don't, again, the equipment area, I don't think that's the existing subcommittee. It's just going to be more focused on equipment. And again, this is a thought, this is a proposal. Nothing is concrete yet, but I wanted to bring that up. That's kind of the results of the briefing that we gave to town council. So I'd welcome to open it up to any comments, discussions, and so forth. Randy, go ahead.
Yeah, Craig, how are you in the subcommittee considering coordination with other emergency messaging, like especially SMC alert? How will the messages that go out on the AM radio be coordinated with those messages?
I think they are not necessarily 100% coordinated. AM 1680 is a TIS system. SMC alert is a little bit different, but it's a great question. And I don't have a great answer right now. So yes, go ahead, Kim.
I don't have an answer, but a recommendation, because it's something with Selena now coming back. One of the things that we are going to start working on was creating already ready templates for SMC alert for messaging, the ones that we can forecast and know, like when this happens, this is what's going to be sent out, just so it's quick and easy, but it was specific to Woodside Fire's district. But with that, I was talking to her about the pre-recorded messaging, how we can, in part of that recording, keep those messagings consistent. That way, whether you're listening to AM radio or you get SMC alert, we're putting out the same information. So that's something that we can certainly happy to support in that messaging and consistency, and then send it to Darcy for that approval.
I would see that as a priority for the messaging for the AM radio, because one of the, I don't know if you share this, but I view the AM radio as a backup to SMC alert. I think most residents are going to be looking to get direction from the SMC alert on their phone, and the AM radio is a backup if that's not working. If cell's down, Comcast is down, although I guess I was a bit concerned hearing that the new system for remotely updating is dependent on Comcast. Comcast has been, at least where I live, terribly unreliable in fact, so much so that I went to Best Buy after, multiple outages, probably at least 3 or 4 over the last 2-3 months. I went to Best Buy and bought Starlink. I haven't activated it yet, but I do understand that the message can still be updated in person, but it would be much more resilient to have a Starlink connection there for the remote updating of the message. But anyway, just in terms of the AM radio as a backup, and I think I brought this up once before, I think it would be very helpful in addition to the audio message that's available on the web to have a written version of it, because it's much easier to take in the information quickly by looking at it. And considering the brevity of the messaging and stuff. Sometimes when I've listened during Red Flags Day, it's slow to listen to the AM radio message.
Yeah.
And
We don't have the capability to send out in written. Now, we do have an internet link. If you have, you can go to the town website and so on, and I've got it on my phone. I can just punch it up and I can get whatever the AM radio is transmitting through the internet. The other thing to remember, Randy, is yes, we can interface with SMC Alert, but the AM radio does more than that. We are contemplating, and we have done alerts on the AM radio for red flag days. We have done SMC alerts for incoming storm warnings. We can do, the schools would like to allow to say there's a incident at the schools, or there's no school today for such and such a reason. So we can even put on there, no burn days, when there's air alerts on there. And so those are, it goes beyond just SM, because part of it now with the signs, we're hoping that people coming into town, like construction workers and so on, who are not aware of a lot of these things, will listen to the radio, because in particular on red flag days, we have a no construction, no, gardener ordinance in the town of Portola Valley. A lot of people don't realize that. And so we're hoping that we can get that word out, that you can tune to the radio and say, okay, if it's a red flag day, these are the things I cannot do.
but don't red flag messages go out on SMC Alert?
Don't think so.
Yeah. So I guess my question, Dale, is like, what is the overarching rationale for which messages go out on the AM radio, but don't go out on SMC Alert and vice versa? And then how are those decisions being made?
Well, we're working through that on the
Okay.
protocol, but generally we can put anything that's local that has to do with an advisory. Like, we can put out information on the
Zots to tots is a good example. for
thoughts.
instance. For
Right, right, sure. Yeah, so I mean, look, I understand there's some things that it might make sense to put out on the AM radio, but not SMC Alert,
If the
and vice versa, but
The alert is the pure providence of the first responders. They can choose what goes out on SMC Alert.
Yeah.
We can, and in the protocols, if they are approved, the fire department will update the message on the AM radio to be consistent with that. You can
Mhm.
also put a lot of other things on the AM radio that are not just SMC Alert.
Sure.
Well, I disagree a lot with that. I think we already have a fairly significant comm committee
Yeah.
that has done the protocols,
Mhm.
is familiar with the hardware, and has a pretty good idea what is going to have to go in those messages, because a lot of the messages, there are certain things you have to do by FCC requirement in every message. So, my opinion is we don't need 3 separate subcommittees. We're not that big.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Uh, And I welcome the opinion. That's why I brought it up, is this concept of splitting things out or keeping it integrated. So let's talk about it more, probably in the next meeting, because we'll have a few more members here, if that makes sense. Jerry, go ahead.
I guess my question on this, I'm thinking through what Randy said, is, how many people actually turn to 1680? I mean, I can't even do it in my Tesla. So, you can have all kinds of great messages, but unless you've somehow signaled to me that I should turn on 1680, I'm not going to do it because it's too much trouble. And I don't think I'm alone. I don't think people are rolling around in Portola Valley with 1680 on. So how do we get a feel for how we alert people to turn to 1680 for a emergency message.
Yeah, that's been our challenge for a very long time, Jerry, is make people aware. We started with the signs. We now have signs out across the town. We've been making people aware of it. I think several people, certainly those involved and certain are aware that in an emergency, and I think that's where you'll get the biggest uptake, right? When all else fails, if you go to 1680, we handed out magnets for years that people could put on their fridge to turn to, 1680 AM on their dial.
But I think that was the key thing, Dale. You said if all else fails, because the way I think about it, I should be getting all the important information on SMC Alert. I should be getting that timely on my phone. I should be able to look at it, understand it, and understand what to do. If for some reason cell goes out and I'm not getting those messages, or I hear that cell is out, then I would go turn on the radio as well. And if that's how I would be handling the situation. That was my understanding, that AM radio is the backup to the primary emergency communication system of SMC Alert. But I think that I'd like to better understand how the rest of this committee thinks about that, how that is playing into the protocols, because if that assumption's not correct, if you expect that more timely information might be coming out on the AM radio than on SMC Alert, then I'd like to know that, and I think residents would like to know that. But then that begs the question of, well, why aren't the timely messages going out on SMC Alert? And how are these systems kept in sync? What should we be expecting? What should we be turning to?
I think, if I may, I think what this all kind of comes under the umbrella of is promotion and education. I mean, what does 1680 do? When does it do it? How to get on it, and so forth. As far as, whether a Tesla can receive it or not is a factor. And it turns out that, especially around here. But the fact is that Teslas are extremely noisy in the AM frequencies. So that's why a lot of times they won't have a radio in them. This is all part of education, in my opinion. And it's something that we have brought up with the town council. We've thought about it internally. I mean, if you create this thing that has a lot of capability, which AM 1680, that's where we're moving, is greater capability, well, that's great. But if it's not being used, it's kind of pointless. So there's like this promotion and education part of the activities that we're looking at. So that's kind of so in the agenda pack, I'm sorry, I'm bouncing around here a little bit. In the agenda pack are the slides that we presented. I'd encourage you to take a look at them, and when we can continue this discussion about how we want to proceed on AM 1680. Well, I'll take Lynn first and then Vic.
This is kind of corny. I was on vacation, and when I drove back into town, I noticed, like I always do, the community watch, the owl, and then the blue signs. It hit me that we're a town that cares about its residents. And just now sitting here, if we could have some sort of Norman Rockwell picture of a family, Portola Valley family, sitting around a radio in the living room that says broadcasting 1680 for our promo, maybe we could get some, older people attention. But anyways, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Lynn. Vic?
Just wanted to underscore, again, we have these resident community organizations. We have several in Portola Valley. I think they're really good organizations to go to with the message, perhaps a little bit of an outline or a little bit of a narrative. I know ours meets on a regular basis, usually every season, particularly when the fire season comes on. And we get a very decent response from the 30 members in our group that's very attentive. So I think that's a good way to reinforce this message of what's available and educate the community.
Okay, thanks, Vic. If there's not a whole lot more, what I'd like to propose is getting the rest of the subcommittee reports, and I'll put on the agenda kind of going through what we want to do with 1680 and what that looks like from at a committee member or committee level, excuse me. So with that, Dale, evacuation.
Evacuation, I think hopefully the town will be working toward using some of the $100,000 money that is coming from the Stanford project. Plus apparently they got another $100,000 matching to do some work on how to improve evacuation of the town. I think that's primarily geared toward widening Alpine Road. So that will be coming up in the next, during the course of this year. And that is probably about it from an evacuation standpoint.
Okay, thanks, Dale. Vic, neighborhood and resident outreach.
Just more, basically advisory calls coming in from the various neighborhood groups. Nothing new in terms of any new resident groups, but that's moving along pretty much on a Q&A basis.
Okay, thanks. Ad hoc safety element, Dale?
This is pretty much in with the town and with town staff right now and consultants. I think that this will come back to this committee for review after they've done all their work, or it may not. It may come to a committee of the chairs of all the committees for final review. So we'll just have to stay tuned and see if we get any input on the evacuation plan.
Okay.
On the safety element.
Yes. All right. Thanks. And Kim, EOP, EOC.
Okay. So recently in the last month in January, we completed the draft EOC guide. It's similar to like a manual, so to speak. It's probably roughly about 40 pages. It's under review by the town manager currently. As part of that EOC guide, we are developing a separate document that's going to be the EOC activation procedure. So it's basically like, how do you walk into the room, turn the lights on, get everything set up, designate the positions that need to be activated, and the notification procedures for staff call out and recall and so forth. After that is developed, that'll also go to the town manager for review. And then we'll move forward with developing the position checklists. And those are positions that fall under the EOC organization that follow the ICS model that everybody's familiar with. And we're customizing the positions because the town staff is limited in terms of bodies. So for example, when you have multiple positions in a wider model, wider EOC model, you have the ability to have everybody kind of in their lane, right? So you've got liaison officer, safety, and they're all responsible for those specific roles. With the EOC model that we're using, there'll be one person that may be responsible for multiple position roles and responsibilities. So it's just going to look a little bit different for the town, and that's what we're going with.
All right, thank you. I think that just the next item is a quorum check for our next meeting is March 5, 2026. Anybody who cannot make it. Randy, you are out. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I'll be out of town.
Gotcha. Okay, I think that's it. There's nothing else. I move to adjourn. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all.